Moana 2 has come out and has grossed $221 million domestically, that's US and Canada, and $386 million globally. To put Moana 2's box office into perspective, the first Moana only grossed $248.7 million domestically and $643.3 million globally back in 2016. There were articles written back at the beginning of November of 2024 saying that this movie was on track to have one of the biggest Thanksgiving opening weekends. I didn't jump on that at the time because my response to that article would have been summed up with this 2-second clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No shit.
In my opinion, Moana 2 was always going to have a big opening weekend because it is a testament to how good the first movie was. It's rare that sequels ever make more money than the first movie in a series. The example that I like to bring up is Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm not here to talk about the movie on its merits, especially since J.J. Abrams and co. promised that Benedict Cumberbatch was not playing Khan, and then this happened.
John Harrison was a fiction created the moment I was awoken by your Admiral Marcus to help him advance his cause.
A smokescreen to conceal my true identity. My name is Khan.
If we go back and examine Star Trek 09, that movie did split the fan base at the time. Some loved it because it reset the timeline, therefore the Kelvin timeline was no longer bound by the original series, Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, so on and so forth. But many others hated it because the movie felt more like Star Wars than Star Trek. However, if we look at the box office between Star Trek 09 and Star Trek Into Darkness, the numbers indicate that Star Trek 09 grew on the fan base over time. Star Trek 09 grossed $385.8 million globally back in 2009, and Star Trek Into Darkness grossed $467.3 million globally back in 2013. You only notice the decline going into Star Trek Beyond, where that movie grossed less than Star Trek 09 did, but in my opinion, that was more than likely a response to the way that Star Trek Into Darkness was handled in specifically this little moment.
My name is Khan.
Let's not look at Star Trek any longer because I can already see the comments that Moana and Star Trek are not the same thing. I'm comparing apples to oranges, and you're right. So let's look at another Disney animated movie. Disney's Frozen 2 also made more than the first Frozen made. Frozen grossed $1.2 billion back in 2013, and yes, that is billion with a B. Frozen 2 grossed $1.42 billion in 2019. Again, even though it's rare that sequels ever make more money than the predecessors, people will go see the next movie in a long-running series if the prior movie was good. And look no further than the success of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That came out immediately after Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home makes, I think, a little under $2 billion at the global box office. Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness comes out, makes like $945 million globally. Nowhere near what Spider-Man No Way Home made, but don't give me this cockamamie horse shit that, oh, Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness did not benefit from Spider-Man No Way Home. Yes, Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness absolutely benefited from the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. We need to also remember that Moana was one of, if not the most streamed movie on Disney Plus for several years. Remember, Moana 2 started as a Disney Plus series before being reworked into a feature film. Moana had almost the same trajectory as Lilo and Stitch. With Lilo and Stitch, the first movie released to theaters, then we had a direct-to-video sequel with Stitch the Movie. But Stitch the Movie served as a backdoor pilot to Lilo and Stitch the series on the Disney Channel, and that show ran for 2 seasons with 67 episodes, and the show concluded with the Disney Channel original movie Leroy and Stitch, which also happens to be the last movie in the Lilo and Stitch series. There is one more Lilo and Stitch movie that I haven't brought up yet. There was a direct sequel made to the first movie called Lilo and Stitch 2 Stitch Has a Glitch. Can you guess how well that movie did at the box office compared to the first movie? If you thought Lilo and Stitch 2 made more money than Lilo and Stitch, you're wrong. Lilo and Stitch 2 released straight to video. people do forget that there was a time when Disney sequels all went straight to video and not into theaters. The one exception I can think of is Aladdin 2 Return of Jafar had a limited theatrical run, but that was a direct-to-video sequel of Aladdin, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think Aladdin Return of Jafar made something like $300 million on home video, and by the way, most of that money Disney can keep for themselves. There was no split between theaters and the Walt Disney Corporation. Walt Disney Corporation essentially kept most of that $300 million for Aladdin 2 Return of Jafar. But anyway, I digress. Frozen 2 and Moana 2 are really the exceptions to Disney animated sequels by getting full theatrical releases and not really the rule. Does Moana 2 making a lot of money mean that this is the best movie in the series? No, not at all. And I'm not saying that. If box office was indicative of quality, then Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides was the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie ever made. Spoiler alert, On Stranger Tides is the most maligned Pirates of the Caribbean sequel. Well, maybe before Dead Men Tell No Tales came out. And I know I don't want to drag this video out longer than it needs to be, so I'll end the video with this. Moana 2 could have been the most middle-of-the-road sequel ever made in cinema history. It wouldn't matter. It was going to make a crap ton of money irregardless because it is a sequel to one of, if not, the most streamed movies on Disney Plus for years and years.